The integration of technology into educational assessment has transformed the ways in which learning is measured, monitored, and enhanced. Technology-enhanced assessment, TEA, refers to the use of digital tools and platforms to design, deliver, and analyze assessments, ranging from simple quizzes to complex simulations. The evolution of TEA is deeply intertwined with broader shifts in educational paradigms, particularly the move towards learner-centered approaches, personalized learning, and data-driven decision-making. As educational institutions across the globe embrace digital transformation, TEA has emerged as both an opportunity and a challenge, reshaping the landscape of teaching, learning, and evaluation. One of the most significant opportunities presented by TEA is its capacity to make assessments more interactive, engaging, and authentic. Traditional paper-based assessments often limit the types of skills and knowledge that can be evaluated, focusing primarily on recall and recognition. In contrast, technology allows for the creation of dynamic assessment environments where students can interact with multimedia content, manipulate variables, and receive immediate feedback. For example, science assessments can now include virtual labs where students conduct experiments, test hypotheses, and observe outcomes in real time. This not only deepens understanding, but also mirrors the kinds of tasks professionals undertake in real-world contexts, thereby enhancing the relevance and transferability of learning. Personalization is another area where TEA offers profound benefits. Adaptive assessment systems use algorithms to adjust the difficulty and sequencing of questions based on individual student responses. This ensures that assessments are appropriately challenging for each learner, providing a more accurate picture of their abilities and needs. Such systems can identify gaps in knowledge, suggest targeted interventions, and support differentiated instruction. Moreover, the data generated by these assessments can inform teachers, students, and parents about progress and areas for improvement, fostering a culture of continuous learning and self-regulation. The scalability and efficiency of TEA are equally noteworthy. Digital assessments can be administered to large numbers of students simultaneously, regardless of geographical location. This is particularly advantageous in contexts such as standardized testing, distance education, and massive open online courses, MOOCs, where logistical constraints often hinder traditional assessment methods. Automated scoring systems further reduce the burden on educators, freeing up time for more meaningful interactions with students. Additionally, technology enables the rapid collection and analysis of assessment data, facilitating timely feedback and informed decision-making at both the classroom and institutional levels. Another opportunity lies in the potential for richer, more nuanced assessment data. Digital tools can capture a wide range of student behaviors and responses, including process data such as time spent on tasks, patterns of problem-solving, and even eye-tracking information. This opens up new possibilities for assessing complex competencies like critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration, which are difficult to measure using conventional tests. For instance, collaborative platforms can track how students communicate and negotiate during group tasks, providing insights into their social and emotional skills. Such multidimensional data supports a more holistic understanding of student learning and development. Despite these opportunities, the implementation of TEA is fraught with challenges that must be carefully navigated. One of the foremost concerns is equity. While technology has the potential to democratize access to high-quality assessment, disparities in digital infrastructure, device availability, and digital literacy can exacerbate existing inequalities. Students from low-income backgrounds or rural areas may lack reliable internet access or the necessary devices to participate fully in digital assessments. Furthermore, students with disabilities may encounter barriers if assessment platforms are not designed with accessibility in mind. Addressing these issues requires concerted efforts from policymakers, educators, and technology providers to ensure that TEA is inclusive and equitable for all learners. Validity and reliability are central to any assessment system, and TEA introduces new complexities in this regard. The use of diverse item formats, multimedia content, and adaptive algorithms necessitates rigorous validation to ensure that assessments accurately measure intended constructs. Technical issues, such as software glitches or connectivity problems, can compromise the integrity of assessment results. Moreover, the interpretation of processed data and complex performance tasks requires sophisticated analytical frameworks to distinguish between genuine learning and extraneous factors. Ensuring the psychometric soundness of technology-enhanced assessments is an ongoing challenge that demands collaboration between educational researchers, psychometricians, and technologists. Security and privacy are critical considerations in the digital assessment landscape. The collection and storage of large volumes of student data raise concerns about data breaches, unauthorized access, and misuse of information. High-stakes assessments, in particular, are vulnerable to cheating and fraud, with students potentially exploiting technological loopholes or using unauthorized resources. Robust security protocols, encryption, and proctoring solutions are essential to safeguard the integrity of assessments and protect student privacy. At the same time, it is important to balance security measures with respect for students' rights and well-being, avoiding overly intrusive surveillance or punitive practices. The effective integration of T also hinges on the readiness and capacity of educators. Teachers play a pivotal role in designing, administering, and interpreting assessments, yet many may lack the necessary training or confidence to leverage digital tools effectively. Professional development programs must equip educators with both technical skills and pedagogical strategies for technology-enhanced assessment. This includes understanding how to select appropriate assessment tools, interpret digital data, and use assessment results to inform instruction. Ongoing support and collaboration among educators are vital to building a culture of innovation and continuous improvement in assessment practices. Resistance to change is another barrier that can impede the adoption of TE. Stakeholders, including teachers, students, parents, and administrators, may harbor skepticism about the reliability, fairness, or value of digital assessments. Concerns about increased workload, loss of control, or depersonalization of the assessment process can fuel reluctance. Overcoming these challenges requires transparent communication, stakeholder involvement in decision-making, and demonstration of the tangible benefits of TE. Pilot programs, case studies, and shared success stories can help build trust and buy-in, paving the way for broader implementation. The design of technology-enhanced assessments must also account for the diversity of learners and learning contexts. Cultural, linguistic, and contextual factors influence how students engage with assessment tasks and interpret feedback. Standardized digital assessments may inadvertently privilege certain groups or disadvantage others if they fail to consider these differences. Culturally responsive assessment design, inclusive language, and flexibility in task formats are essential to ensure that TE supports rather than hinders educational equity. Involving diverse stakeholders in the design and evaluation of assessments can help surface and address potential biases. Assessment literacy is an often overlooked aspect of successful TE implementation. Both educators and students need to understand the purposes, processes, and implications of digital assessments. For teachers, this includes being able to critically evaluate the quality of assessment tools, interpret data meaningfully, and communicate results effectively to students and parents. For students, assessment literacy involves understanding how digital assessments work, what is being measured, and how to use feedback for learning. Building assessment literacy requires intentional efforts through training, resources, and ongoing dialogue. The rapid pace of technological innovation presents both opportunities and challenges for TE. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, virtual reality, VR, and augmented reality, AR, are opening up new frontiers in assessment. AI-powered systems can provide personalized feedback, detect patterns in student responses, and even generate new assessment items. VR and AR enable immersive assessment experiences that simulate complex environments and tasks. While these advances hold great promise, They also raise questions about ethical use, transparency, and the potential for unintended consequences. Ensuring that technological innovation aligns with educational values and goals is a critical consideration for the future of TEA. Sustainability is another important dimension of TEA. The development and maintenance of digital assessment systems require significant investment in infrastructure, software, and human resources. Ensuring the long-term viability of these systems involves careful planning, resource allocation, and ongoing evaluation. Open-source solutions, public-private partnerships, and collaborative networks can help share costs and expertise, making TEA more accessible and sustainable. Furthermore, environmental considerations, such as energy consumption and electronic waste, should be factored into decisions about technology adoption and use. The COVID-19 pandemic has underscored both the necessity and the challenges of TEA. As schools and universities shifted to remote and hybrid learning models, digital assessments became a lifeline for maintaining instructional continuity and accountability. However, the abrupt transition exposed gaps in infrastructure, preparedness, and equity, highlighting the need for more resilient and flexible assessment systems. Lessons learned from the pandemic can inform future efforts to build robust TEA frameworks that are responsive to changing circumstances and diverse learner needs. Collaboration is key to realizing the full potential of TEA. Effective assessment systems require input from a wide range of stakeholders, including educators, students, parents, policymakers, technologists, and researchers. Collaborative design processes can help ensure that assessments are relevant, valid, and user-friendly. Partnerships between educational institutions and technology companies can drive innovation while maintaining a focus on educational quality and equity. Research practice partnerships can bridge the gap between theory and application, generating evidence to guide the ongoing refinement of TEA. Ethical considerations must remain at the forefront of TEA development and implementation. The use of technology in assessment raises important questions about consent, autonomy, and the potential for harm. For example, the use of AI in scoring or proctoring may introduce biases or errors that disproportionately affect certain groups of students. Transparent algorithms, regular audits, and mechanisms for redress are essential to uphold fairness and accountability. Engaging students and communities in conversations about the ethical dimensions of TEA can foster trust and shared responsibility. Looking to the future, the role of TEA is likely to expand as education systems continue to evolve in response to societal, technological, and economic changes. Lifelong learning, reskilling, and upskilling are becoming increasingly important in a rapidly changing world, and technology-enhanced assessments will play a crucial role in supporting these needs. Micro-credentials, digital badges, and competency-based assessments are emerging as alternative forms of recognition that can be tailored to individual learning pathways and career goals. TEA can facilitate the tracking and verification of skills across formal and informal learning contexts, supporting more flexible and personalized educational trajectories. However, the success of TEA ultimately depends on its alignment with broader educational goals and values. Technology should serve as a means to enhance, rather than replace, the human dimensions of teaching and learning. Assessment should remain a tool for supporting growth, reflection, and improvement, rather than simply a mechanism for sorting or ranking students. Ongoing dialogue, critical reflection, and a commitment to equity and inclusion are essential to ensure that TEA fulfills its promise. In conclusion, technology-enhanced assessment offers a wealth of opportunities to transform how we measure and support student learning. Its potential to create more interactive, personalized, and scalable assessments can drive improvements in educational quality and equity. At the same time, TEA presents significant challenges related to equity, validity, security, educator capacity, and ethical practice. Navigating these challenges requires a holistic, collaborative, and principled approach that places learners at the center. As we continue to explore and expand the possibilities of TEA, it is imperative to remain vigilant, reflective, and responsive to the needs and aspirations of all learners. Only then can technology truly enhance assessment, and, by extension, education itself. The historical context of assessment in education provides important insights into why technology-enhanced assessment has become so necessary and impactful. Traditionally, assessments have been dominated by summative, high-stakes examinations designed to sort and rank students, often at the expense of deeper learning and understanding. These assessments were typically standardized, rigid, and focused on a narrow range of skills, primarily those that could be easily measured on paper. As educational philosophies shifted towards constructivist and learner-centered approaches, the limitations of traditional assessment became increasingly apparent. There was a growing recognition that meaningful assessment should not only measure what students know, but also how they think, solve problems, and apply knowledge in novel situations. The advent of digital technologies coincided with these pedagogical shifts, offering new possibilities for assessment that were previously unimaginable. Early computer-based assessments simply digitized existing paper tests, providing modest gains in efficiency and convenience. However, as technology advanced, so too did the potential for more transformative forms of assessment. Interactive simulations, multimedia tasks, and adaptive testing systems began to emerge, enabling assessments that could capture a broader and more authentic range of student abilities. These innovations laid the groundwork for the contemporary landscape of TEA, in which assessment is increasingly seen as an integral part of the learning process, rather than a separate or final event. One of the most promising aspects of TEA is its ability to support formative assessment practices. Formative assessment refers to the ongoing use of assessment information to inform teaching and support student learning. Technology can facilitate this process by providing real-time feedback, tracking progress over time, and enabling teachers to tailor instruction to individual needs. For example, digital platforms can generate immediate feedback on student responses, highlight common misconceptions, and suggest targeted resources for further study. This empowers students to take ownership of their learning and supports teachers in making data-informed instructional decisions. Moreover, TEA can help bridge the gap between assessment and instruction by embedding assessment seamlessly into learning activities. Rather than being a separate or disruptive event, assessment can become a natural part of the learning process. For instance, educational games and simulations can assess student understanding as they engage in problem-solving tasks, providing both motivation and diagnostic information. This approach aligns with the principles of authentic assessment, which emphasize the importance of evaluating students' abilities to apply knowledge and skills in meaningful contexts. The use of technology also opens up new possibilities for peer and self-assessment. Digital platforms can facilitate the sharing of work, the provision of feedback, and the reflection on learning processes. For example, online portfolios allow students to curate and reflect on their work over time, while peer review systems enable collaborative evaluation and dialogue. These practices not only deepen learning but also foster important skills such as critical thinking, communication, and self-regulation. Despite these advantages, the integration of TEA into educational practice is not without its pitfalls. One of the most persistent challenges is ensuring that technology is used in ways that genuinely enhance assessment rather than simply replicating existing practices in a digital format. There is a risk that the novelty of technology can overshadow pedagogical considerations, leading to the adoption of tools that are flashy but pedagogically unsound. It is essential that the design and implementation of TEA are guided by clear educational goals and grounded in evidence-based practices. Another challenge relates to the interpretation and use of assessment data. While technology can generate vast amounts of data, not all of it is equally meaningful or actionable. Educators and administrators need to develop the skills to analyze and interpret digital assessment data, distinguishing between signal and noise. There is also a danger of data overload, where the sheer volume of information becomes overwhelming and counterproductive. Effective data management systems, clear reporting structures, and ongoing professional development are necessary to ensure that assessment data is used effectively to support learning. The issue of student engagement is also pertinent. While technology has the potential to make assessments more engaging, there is no guarantee that digital assessments will automatically increase motivation or interest. Poorly designed digital assessments can be just as tedious or anxiety-inducing as their paper-based counterparts. It is important to involve students in the design and evaluation of TEA, seeking their input on what makes assessments meaningful and motivating. Incorporating elements of choice, relevance, and challenge can help ensure that digital assessments support rather than undermine student engagement. The global dimension of TEA is another area of both opportunity and challenge. Digital technologies enable assessments to be administered across borders, facilitating international benchmarking and collaboration. This is particularly relevant in an increasingly interconnected world, where students need to develop global competencies and navigate diverse cultural contexts. However, the globalization of assessment also raises questions about cultural relevance, language barriers, and the risk of imposing standardized models that may not align with local values or needs. Efforts to internationalize TEA must be sensitive to these issues, promoting dialogue and mutual learning among diverse educational communities. As technology continues to evolve, the boundaries between assessment, instruction, and learning are likely to become increasingly blurred. Emerging approaches such as learning analytics, intelligent tutoring systems, and competency-based education are reconfiguring the relationships between teaching, learning, and assessment. In this context, TEA has the potential to serve as a catalyst for more integrated, flexible, and personalized educational experiences. However, realizing this potential requires ongoing research, innovation, and critical reflection on the purposes and practices of assessment. Research plays a crucial role in advancing the field of TEA. Rigorous studies are needed to evaluate the effectiveness of different assessment tools and approaches, identify best practices, and uncover potential risks or unintended consequences. Collaboration between researchers, practitioners, and technology developers can help ensure that TEA is informed by the latest evidence and responsive to the needs of educators and learners. Disseminating research findings and fostering communities of practice can support the scaling and sustainability of effective TEA initiatives. Policy frameworks also have a significant impact on the adoption and effectiveness of TEA. Policies related to curriculum standards, assessment requirements, data privacy, and funding shape the ways in which technology is used in assessment. Policymakers need to strike a balance between promoting innovation and ensuring quality, equity, and accountability. Clear guidelines, supportive infrastructure, and ongoing evaluation are essential to create an enabling environment for TEA. Involving educators and other stakeholders in policy development can help ensure that policies are grounded in practical realities and aligned with educational goals. The role of the private sector in TEA is both significant and complex. Technology companies are major drivers of innovation in digital assessment, developing tools and platforms that are used by millions of students and educators worldwide. Partnerships between educational institutions and technology providers can accelerate the development and scaling of TEA solutions. However, these relationships also raise questions about commercialization, data ownership, and the alignment of corporate interests with educational values. Transparency, accountability, and shared governance are important principles for managing these partnerships and ensuring that the interests of learners remain paramount. In summary, technology-enhanced assessment represents a dynamic and rapidly evolving field with the potential to transform education. The opportunities it offers, in terms of interactivity, personalization, scalability, rich data, and formative feedback, are substantial. At the same time, the challenges it poses, related to equity, validity, security, educator capacity, engagement, globalization, policy, and ethics, are complex and multifaceted. Navigating this landscape requires thoughtful, collaborative, and principled approaches that place the needs and interests of learners at the center. Ultimately, The success of T depends on our collective ability to harness technology in service of meaningful, equitable, and effective assessment. This involves not only adopting new tools and platforms, but also rethinking our fundamental assumptions about what assessment is for, how it should be conducted, and whose interests it should serve. By embracing a spirit of innovation, inquiry, and inclusivity, we can ensure that technology enhances rather than diminishes the human dimensions of education. As we look to the future, the challenge and opportunity of T is to create assessment systems that are not only technologically advanced, but also educationally sound, ethically responsible, and deeply attuned to the diverse needs and aspirations of learners around the world.